Harry, Peter, Spike.
Do you remember when the days... if you touched the microphone, you'd have 10 BBC officials out. Leave that alone, that's BBC property, that. And there was a BBC plate.
Except all the pockmarks on it, like...
Yes, used by Tommy Handley and Ted Ray. Where from, Don?
From the top, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now present the Goon... pronounce you, Burke. The Goon Show, open! We've been together now for 40 years, and it ain't been a day. Got it, folks! It was the kindest way out. Thank you all. And now for an encore, Mr. Webster Smogpule will sing that lovely Mongolian saxophone solo for Cor Anglais and Cor Blamy, I Lost My Teeth in a Monastery Garden by Hurlston. Let me like a song. Oh, pardon me. Oh, let me like a soldier fall upon the field of a battle. We would like to announce that this was Smogpule's farewell appearance. But now to this week's great feature. Chapter 1, 1939. I joined the colours. No, put me down.
We met in North Africa, Spike and I. I mean, we were mates, a couple of army mates. We laughed at the same things. And when I came out of the army, it was a dodgy business, trying to get work. I was determined not to go back to the office I'd been in before the war, as a pay clerk in an office in Swansea. So I came up to London, did an audition at the Windmill Theatre and got in. And Mike Benteen followed me into the Windmill Theatre. And I realised this fella's got the same sort of thing as Spike and I've got. So I went down to see him in the dressing room.
And we had 3 and 6pence between us. So instead of eating anything, we went, to keep out of the rain, to the nearest cameo cartoon theatre and stayed round about 5 times, falling about screaming with laughter. And from then on, we've been mates, completely. And then I was working with Harry doing Variety Bandbox, and I was writing him weird things. And the star of the show was Derek Roy, for whom Jimmy Grafton was writing. So he said, he wrote us a letter, and he said, our styles are clashing. Would you like to come down and talk it over with me? So we thought, great. Then we saw the address, Grafton Arms, Strutton Ground, near Victoria Street. And we thought, it's a pub. He owns a pub. So, of course, we'd go anywhere for beer in those days.
Last order, please.
People who were in show business would get a drink there. That was the essential reason for us being there. And we somehow or other, gravitated there. I wasn't a drinker. I used to play the piano while they all drank. I remember that quite clearly.
It was coming together. There was Spike and I started, then I met Mike, so I introduced Spike to Mike.
And it grew. Anybody who played the windmill went to Grafton's, which was Mike, Harry Seacombe, Peter Sellers, Larry Stevens, who knew Harry from the windmill, Tony Hancock, Alfie Marks, Graham Stark was a chum of Larry Stevens, and in the end, pretty well the whole of what was going to be show business for the next 15 years was upstairs at Grafton's. You've never seen anything like it. Young, mad, enthusiastic and wild.
Remember, we were all ex-servicemen. That was a big bond in those days. I don't mean a jingoistic bond. It really was a bond of mutual suffering, because we'd all been through it.
It's war, W-A-R, pronounced war.
We, all of us, Mike Benteen, Harry, Spike and I, had this feeling that we had to do something. We had this thing inside us, we wanted to express ourselves in a sort of surrealistic form. We thought in cartoons, we thought in blackouts, we thought in sketches, we thought of mad characters, we thought of take a situation and instead of letting it end normally, let it end the other way, twist it around.
Moriarty.
Yes, what is it, good boy? What is it?
Take a letter in gargling fluid.
Hello.
To the Postmaster General. Dear General. according to the shape of my knees, I believe that an illegal raffle for the equator is being held, and for certain monies I will reveal the organizer. Let's have that back, please. You filthy swine. You've watered my peony.
Sometimes I'll read this to people at the pub seeking out some kind of acceptance of the jokes. And, of course, they were all as thick as planks. They're just boozers. They never laughed at anything. So some little light in me said, ignore these stupid bastards. It is funny. You are funny. Enjoy it yourself. That was the driving energy behind me. And I've been like that ever since. That's why I am now totally unemployed.
We had these sort of get-together, ad-lib bits and pieces of comedy that we all sort of chipped in with. Recorded them on this, and went hysterical on this old wire recorder.
What? Tape record that, tape record it, quick!
And this grew and grew and grew and grew. And eventually, as you know, after knocking on the BBC door for months and months, Pat Dixon got us on.
Well, it came in via the back door. Peter Sellers knew Pat Dixon, who really was the enfant terrible of the BBC. He put on some very, very good shows. And he saw there was a potential in it.
Patrick McNeill Dixon, towering individualist who wouldn't be put down anybody. And he fought it through and eventually got it on.
Another cue coming down. 15 seconds from now.
The BBC gave us a trial recording, a pilot show we did. Fortunately, it was a hit. And a series came out of that, which Dennis Main Wilson produced.
I suppose the BBC knows what it's doing?
When I produced the first series of The Goon Show, we weren't allowed to call it The Goon Show. We had to call it Crazy People because the BBC thought that nobody would know who the Goons were. To which I think Spike or Peter Sellers said, well, who are Take It From Here then? No response.
The word goon had arisen in sort of different ways for each of us. I think we all caught it from Edgar Segar's famous cartoon strip Popeye. You know, the goons were these what-no type characters, a featureless face, huge hairy arms who spoke in soundtrack. And then during the war, I talked to a number of escaped prisoners of war, and they always referred to the German guards as the goons. The others had their own origins for goons, but we all recognized the word instantly and used it.
The first shows were appallingly unfunny, but absolutely highly charged with the promise of more electricity to come.
Good evening. Good evening, Captain. Glad to have you with us again. Glad to have me with you, yes. Now, tell me, Captain, is it true that you built the Suez Canal?
Oh, yes, Mr. Billigan, yes. Oh, yes, I built it. It took me a long, long time, though. First, I had to get some permission from Cleopatra.
But the Cleopatra's been dead for 2,000 years.
I told you, it took me a long, long time.
What do you want, Fishy Pipe?
I sure am like him, Mr. Baruch. I'm building a canal, and I'm afraid it's going to run right through your house.
What? Do me a fiver, yocky boy. You think I'm going to run downstairs and open the front door every time a ship wants to go through? What?
You silly old thing, you don't have to do that.
Now?
You can leave the key under the mat.
Mike was Captain Pureheart. You know, which is quite close to himself, as Daddy was close to me. And it sort of presaged what eventually happened with Neddy being a central character. He was going that way, I think.
Osric was a favourite of Spike's. He always loved it. They used to give me the posh voices, you see. They gave me the hellos and the yes, and this is Hugh Jempton here, speaking to you from Kempton Park. And, you know, one of those.
In the second series, we were getting better. We got a few more coconut shells. the scripts got better and better and more adventurous. And it was still very much a documentary format. And Spike, I suspect, felt confined. The script was being almost personality-led by Benteen.
Mike Benteen throws out ideas like sparks on a catherine wheel, say. And Spike, his mind flies away. And between them, they get together and expand on an idea. And perhaps at the end of the day, they both go home thinking the idea was theirs, which sometimes led to a little bit of friction, because Spike would think it was his and Mike would think it belonged to him.
Everybody being an individual, which is the right of everybody on the planet, sees it slightly differently. We all laugh at exactly the same things. I mean, the humour that used to prostrate Spike and Harry also prostrated Pete and me, you know. McGonagall.
May I introduce myself, sir? I am William J. McGonagall, poet and tragedian and twit.
The nonsense novels of Stephen Leacock.
One line, it was, something in the lad's upturned face appealed to him. He threw a brick at it. Now, that kind of thing.
Essentially, they were the basis of the sort of pricking of the balloon of pomposity was the thing that made us laugh.
Mike Benteen wanted to go into reality documentary and take the mickey out of the present state of the nation, quite technically. The Brabazon airliner.
If you will open the hangar doors, you can see the huge Brabazon airliner, a product of British genius. Start the engines! And you heard... and 4 trains left Waterloo Station. And there's a long pause, and then he says, our Carstairs, yes, Professor Pureheart, would you mind asking the chief designer to step into my office for a moment? It was that sort of humour.
Spike wanted to take off and just disappear into, you know, jet-propelled secret naffies and things like this. And some he had to give.
What, Captain? After all that digging, you know, I mean, do you know what they want to do with my beautiful canal? What? Fill it with water!
Having been brought up as the son of a pioneer and a natural heretic and a natural radical, having seen a thing was becoming a success, I then wanted to get on with something else, which I then did.
I was myself veering towards writing a storyline away from these short sketches.
Spike in the studio lacks confidence in himself. He said to me once, what I need then is a strong producer. It wasn't going to be me. I've tried it before. And there was a great drama producer, Peter Eaton.
He was firm with the lads, because sometimes we were a bit boisterous and over the top, and he'd tell us in no uncertain terms, service terms, to pack it in, and we would, because he had that kind of authority.
Very funny game. All right, let's have a rough run through, blokes.
He had a dramatic background. I think it was the song.
And he took over from the 3rd series onwards and whacked discipline in, and the show took off.
Dawn, June the 9th was 0 hour. Inside the Albert Memorial rocket, we stood waiting Professor Seagoon's orders.
All ready?
Yes. Can I ride on top?
Why?
I want to smoke.
Silence. Now close the hydraulic doors. Ten, stand by the spy thing, Nagelblatt flat. Eccles, check the Yakapakaga gauges. Flydoo, stand by the thermostatic gyroscope. Check the mercurial compression of the internal dithermics across the coordinate radar on the ultra. Release the afterstock burners. Raise the hydrostatic elements and hurl rocket barthelments from the metric depressions.
Do it yourself.
Mutiny! Eccles, arrest that man.
Okay, come on.
Take your dirty hand off my filthy arm.
What? Well, you had enough?
Yes, but it wasn't me.
Never mind. We're taking off in 10 seconds from now. 9, 8, 7, 6. 7, 6. Let's have a look at that list. All right. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now!
Strange enough, I think the four of us, we were pretty unwieldy with four. When it was stripped down to three, it seemed to work better. I'm not demeaning what Mike's contribution, of course, but that's how it seemed to work out eventually.
Is this pre-recorded, this piano? It's all pre-recorded, is it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going boom, 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 and we should be more spread out.
The rehearsals were hysterical because that was the time when it all came together. The first run-through would be hysterical because we'd all be laughing and mucking about. And then when the band came in, you'd have a band rehearsal with the orchestra. Then it was a bit different because you were getting near the nitty-gritty.
I'm in love with an old trombone.
The band was wonderful, and the music was exceptionally good now.
Angela Morley did all the writing for it. Very talented indeed.
My job was to write cues for the programme, whatever Spike wanted, and to write this arrangement for Max Gelder every week. And so I did that for about 2 years. Then one day Stanley Black said he didn't want to do it anymore. So I got that opportunity.
The links between were like Hollywood epics.
When I die, take all the treasures of my kingdom, place them at my feet, then bury me in some high, forgotten mountain.
There was a tremendous lift from the orchestra. The Cruel Sea type music we had. The music was witty. That was the thing about the music.
I'm going to clear my name and get back my self-respect.
Yeah?
I'll join the Navy!
Why?
It's too damn noisy in the Navy.
Well, Spike made his needs very plainly known. I mean, he described in the script every week how he wanted it to be. And then, of course, when we got to rehearsal, Spike would sometimes say, no, it sounds too good. I know in one show there had to be a national anthem for some Ruritanian sort of country in Middle Europe, you know. And I composed this national anthem. Then when Spike heard it, he said, no, that sounds much too good. He said, I just want to hear one instrument at a time. So it sort of kind of started with piccolo, and then it went to trombone, and then it went to violin or something. And he was absolutely right. It sounded fantastic. I'd like to think I composed it that way, you see.
What a beautiful tune. Has anyone set it to music?
No one has had the courage.
Obviously, when you started playing the scoring by Angela, there was something in it for everybody there. All the band felt as if they were really an important part of the show, which of course they were.
And the musicians in the band loved doing the show, you know. And sometimes they had little things to do, you know. The George Chisholm sometimes had a line or something. And Poggy Pogson, who was one of the saxophones.
Men, men, men. Men, 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 men. Men. Stop playing that saxophone in Africa and put it back in the fridge.
Sometimes he'd have a little violin thing, and Max occasionally had a line.
I know, boy, it's the old conch that gives me away.
Am I right, Max? It keeps the rain off your tie, mate?
Yes.
Max Geldray played the evergreens, and so did Ray Ellington. They played some modern tunes, but also the evergreens. So, strangely enough, the Goon Show doesn't seem to date for that reason. We got a lift from it. It was your foot was tapping all the time. We used to be in the wings, swigging down a bit of brandy that disguised as milk, waiting for hey. He made the mouth organ, a harmonica.
That's nice. Cool, blimey.
I wish that I could play the mouth organ like that. That is nice.
Let me take this. In the beginning, the Goon Show was a series of unrelated sketches. Eventually, they decided, or Spike decided, that it would be a good idea to have a central figure around which these strange, bizarre incidents occurred. So my voice being the most distinctive, in as much as I couldn't disguise it when I did any other voice, I became Eddie Seagull, which is really only an extension of my own self, I suppose.
Have a care, sir. I'm not a man to be laughed at.
I know, I've seen your act. The singing shaver, isn't it?
I have my dark secrets.
Spike always saw me as a little idiot in ragged underpants running on. It worked then. I mean, you could do all these things as a story. Like Spike wrote the Goon Show then as a story rather than as a series of unrelated incidents.
This is the BBC Home Service. Enter a short idiot.
When Michael left, there's only two of them, and there was room for a third voice. And then, just so bit by bit, I didn't have much confidence in myself because I was pretty overwhelmed by the talents of Peter Sellers and things. But one thing he couldn't do was two voices at once. So consequently, this third voice came into being.
Ah, now who was that knocking?
It was my friend, Gritpipe Finn.
I can't see him.
That's because you were playing him.
What?
He's never here when you're here.
I don't understand.
Neither of the audience. That's why he isn't getting a laugh.
Oh.
And so I used to just drop in voices. I think I invented Minnie Bannister because Henry Crine had no love life. So I tried to create a demonic sex goddess for him, Minnie Bannister.
Stop! Stop. This spoon is out of tune, Min. Have you been eating with it again?
No!
And what's that you're stirring the soup with?
A violin.
He's always got an answer, the old cow.
No.
And little Jim.
I can't read this rubbish. It's Holland in the marker.
Moriarty. All the hangers-on. Yes. they were actually culled from real life.
I travel the road, I travel the road, I travel the road in a military way. No!
I was born in India, son of the Indian Army. And among the Indian Army were all the despotic majors and colonels that weren't allowed in England for stealing little girls' bicycle saddles. They'd been deported to India for this. They sold the regimental silver. They plundered the funds. They slept with all good-looking officers' wives.
All lies, do you hear me? Lies. I was in Bangalore at the time. I deny every word. She's lying, I tell you. Lying, and so is Alice Girth and Mary Thula and all the other women I'm molesting. They're all after my piggy bank, do you hear me?
That was Bloodnock. He was a real character and a swine.
And we all saw each other. I mean, I saw Spike as Eccles.
I'm the anti-climax.
I think Eccles is haunted by Goofy, childhood love of my life is Goofy. I slightly refined him and made him more into Homo sapiens, very low key, you know. He represented the loser in life, who always came up smiling out of every occasion and could not be defeated by logic. He can always overcome it. Like you ask him for the time, and he'd say, I've got it written down in a piece of paper here. Things like that. And if you say it's sometimes your bit of paper must be faster than mine. Strange, insane. It's a child's logic, isn't it? Absolute children's logic.
What time is it, Eccles?
Just a minute, I got it written down here on a piece of paper. And a nice man wrote the time down for me this morning.
Oh, then why do you carry it around with you, Eccles?
Well, if anybody asks me the time, I can show it to them.
Wait a minute, Eccles, my good man.
What is it, fellow?
It's written on this bit of paper. What is 8 o'clock is written.
I know that, my good fellow. That's right. When I asked the fella to write it down, it was 8 o'clock.
Well, then, supposing when somebody asks you the time, it isn't 8 o'clock.
Well, then I don't show it to them. Yeah.
Well, how do you know when it's 8 o'clock?
I got it written down on a piece of paper.
I wish I could afford a piece of paper with the time written on.
Oh.
Here, Eccles.
Yeah?
Let me hold that piece of paper to my ear, would you? Here. This piece of paper ain't going.
What? I've been told a forgery.
No wonder it stopped at 8 o'clock.
Oh, dear.
You should get one of them things my granddad's got.
Oh?
His firm gave it to him when he retired.
Oh.
It's one of them things, what it is, that wakes you up at 8 o'clock, boils the kettle, and pours a cup of tea.
Oh, yeah. What's it called?
My grandma.
Oh, wait a minute. How does she know when it's 8 o'clock?
She got it written down on a piece of paper.
The marvellous thing was to stand next to Peter when he was doing Grit Pipe, because when he became Grit Pipe, when he did the voice of Grit, he became Grit Pipe. And he blew himself for Blood Knock, and he shrank for Henry Crun, and he became tiny for Blue Bottle. Physically, he changed. Quite remarkable.
Harry and I, we just got out of the taxi and we're going into the stage door of the Chiswick Empire, when out of the shadows, it was raining, came a 6'2" man with a red beard, long red beard, and a scoutmaster's outfit, quite a young man, with a racing bicycle, and he said, "Hello, I want to be a coon." And I thought, God almighty, it's too tall for Spike. And Harry said, it's Peter's fatter than that, it can't be Pete. And we realised he was for real. And I said, "You want to be a coon? I want to be a coon for the Goon Show. I like the Goon Show." He's a lovely bloke. So I said, "Well, it's not really up to us. You'll have to go over to Finsbury Park Empire. I'm sorry it's raining." He said, "No, it's all right. I can ride in the rain." And I said, "Well, you go over there and you talk to Peter and you say that I think you're a genius." "Yes, I will, he said. "Yes." He practically said, "My captain," and went roaring off into this howling gale. And apparently it turned up about an hour and a half later, because it's right across London.
Anyway, the door opened and the fellow said, "There's some strange geezer out here." Well, I don't know what he says. I mean, Michael Bentley sent him along, so I thought, well, I might as well see him, you see. So, anyway, this tall fella, he got a little briefcase and he got a scout hat, but he got a big red beard with all this. And red knees and socks and all the insignia, you know. And he said, and I'm not kidding, this is how he spoke, he said, "Could I come in for a moment, please?" No, true. And I thought, what is this? So I said, "Yes, certainly, please, what can I do for you?" He said, "I have just seen Macabentine at Chiswick. And he said that I'm a genius." So he found out people.
Men, halt! Poles on the ground from the shoulders put there. Men of the 3rd Finchley War Cup. Young Sprodley, don't do that. We are known as the Women Sabres. Our duty is to crush vice in Finchley.
Gritpipe Thin was all the very cool Englishmen I'd ever known, who basically had the arse out of their trousers. No, they were poorer, that they had the arse out of somebody else's trousers.
Please, Moriarty. Keep still. You want us both out of this suit? Now.
And they're always talking in big terms of money and all this. And I remember seeing them in my journeys through the world. I was sitting next to a man in a first-class seat on a British Airways plane, and he was talking in millions of pounds to me.
One of our inmates is heir to £1 million.
Oh, £1 million! Oh, money, money. And I noticed that all his cuffs were heavily frayed, and that one of his cufflinks was a piece of string knotted to hold the shirt together. But he talked in millions of pounds like this. And then when he crossed his legs, I noticed an enormous hole in his sock with blackened skin underneath, which proclaimed he hadn't had a bath for a long time for a start. But he still talked in million until we landed, yes. I think he left money owing to the cabin crew. The rehearsals many, many times far eclipsed the actual show for hilarity. Because when the boys heard the joke for the first time, they were very tempered to laugh instantaneously in a sort of a really hysterical way, a deep, deep enjoyment of the joke.
I am with Captain Goat Cabin's balancing stallions. And also with Miss Golden Finish. Late Dr. Edith's Golden Finish. That's the one I wanted to tell you. I knew I'd finish you off.
It was magic to hear it suddenly exploding around your ears. It's like Beethoven must have felt when he wrote the fifth down and then heard it played. But then he had to go on and write the sixth and the seventh and so on. There was no let-up. It was terrible, terrible strain.
You know, this constant search for something different every week really got to him. And as you know, he's manic depressive.
My personality made me want to write a better one each time. And I almost succeeded in doing that, actually improving the quality of the shows. It was a sort of strange insanity. It was my place in heaven I was trying to fight for. That's what it was. I couldn't stop it, you know. There was nothing I could do with it. I had to write it like I was preordained.
The mental pressure of turning out a show a week like the Goons must have been tremendous. And you know, Spike couldn't always stand it. And therefore he had to occasionally call in help. Sometimes he brought in an assistant writer. But there were occasions when, because the show was scheduled and had to go out, that the script, in fact, was by somebody else. Well, they are merely the indications of the times when Spike was particularly exhausted.
It was essentially Spike's show. Towards the end, it was just him writing it. Larry Stevens did some very good things. Eric did some good scripts, but eventually it was all down to Spike.
I think that Bernard Shaw would have balked at accepting a contract where you have to write 26 half-hour stories a year. But when you think of it, if you wanted to persecute somebody, you'd say, I sentence you to write 26 funny half-hours a year. It's unbelievable. It's overwhelming. It destroyed me. It destroyed me completely. So it wasn't a happy occasion. There used to be a feeling of relief on Sunday if it went well, but then you just went home, went to sleep and got up on Monday and started again. It was, in the words of justice, totally unfair to do it to a human being. But that's how the cards were played. That was the set number that they had to have on BBC scheduling, was 26 half hours. 6 would have been enough. Might have lasted longer.
There were 1 or 2 Goon shows, or 2 or 3 Goon shows, where he wasn't able to perform. He wrote the script and he wasn't able to perform, so Peter and I did them. And then when we were ill, or somebody was ill, then as we say, either Dick Emery or Graham Stark came in and did something.
When Spike got these sort of sad depressions and occasionally couldn't work, I was called in by Peter Eaton, who was then the producer of the show, and I depped, which was, you know, a great honour, I depped for Spike, alternating with Dick Emery. In other words, say there were 6 shows that Spike couldn't do, I would do every other one, and Dick would do the other one. So we would do 3 each.
It sounds naughty.
It is.
And there's more where that came from.
He's marvellous at that, concocting these wonderful, he'd have Big Ben chiming like a cockerel, you know, or like a chicken. Marvellous team of lads they had in the control room, working the sound effects.
Answer that phone.
I think the effects of the show got a great reputation. This was because at this time most of the recorded effects were on 78 discs.
We used to have knock on door and footsteps on gravel, which was the limit to the BBC Sound Archive. We wanted a Wurlitzer organ playing, changing gear and changing key at the same time, which was a wonderful idea and sounded very funny when it was actually done.
Get in, buddy.
Okay, buddy, get that.
Hold tight.
Crazy.
This is pre-tape days, so if you had an effects sequence, you were going to have to play the records and very often play them live into the show. That meant you'd had turntables with about 6 records on, and you've got to play these in sequence and time them to go in cohorts with the cast using what has been recorded and it exists in the library. Though very often, of course, you're using effects that have been recorded in a totally different context.
And we just asked for them, and I think it gave it certainly woke them up backstage, like wanted the sound of a wall going at speed.
Hey! That tricycle against the wall. Whose is it?
Mine. A present from an admirer.
Could you drive me to town on it?
Oh, the tricycle isn't mine. The wall was the present.
Well, drive me there on that.
Right. Hold tight.
The sound you are hearing is Neddy and Eccles driving a wall at speed. We thought you ought to know.
Pianos drawn by a gaggle of chickens.
Can you start feeding in the tuning with the piano with the chicken after line 9?
And an oyster.
Fred the Oyster, which is actually a donkey braying and breaking wind at the end of it.
Yes, why shouldn't an oyster be German?
Because an oyster can't talk.
Have you ever spoken to one?
No?
Then you don't know, do you?
Yeah.
No. Now, look, we've got an oyster here.
Fred, isn't it?
Yes. Put it on the desk. There you are, Min. There, now, go and speak to it.
Good morning. This is madness, you can't.
You'll have to speak louder. He can't hear you.
Of course not. The oyster's closed.
Closed? Wednesday, of course. It's early closing. Shout loud to it. Shout loud. Shout loud.
Good morning.
They were mules. I remember these mules used to do this to cool their lips in India. They'd blow unbelievable raspberries. They used to collapse me. They still do. They still paralyze me. Whenever that happened, I was helpless. The thought of it is unbelievable. The mule was doing it, not knowing how funny it was.
Yeah, I tell you what, can that come in full volume? Belt it right out. Oh, a bit more than that.
Actually, it's the bigger one. There's one before
There's one
that,
before that,
which is a real.
That's
when they put the afterburner on. That one.
Yes, it's a real. Get the afterburn. Yes, naughty Neddy.
Naughty idiot. Naughty idiot.
They did some brilliant things, and it was all... The sound effects boys were probably the hardest work sound effects boys that ever were, but they loved it. They really loved it because they had something to do besides open and close the door. The effect of the effects was something that is lacking today. I think in radio, what is lacking is that they're not creating pictures. You are transported. Now that is what radio is good at, and the Goon Show did it.
There was one show I liked very much, was without an audience. It was an experimental thing. The Starlings, which is done up in Newcastle, without an audience, done as a play, almost. I liked that. I think that was a good idea.
Very, very, very funny show and exceedingly well done. And I think it should have been put up for the Italia Grand Prix. It should have been put up for it. Because the comedy is no heroes, really, when it comes to bureaucracy.
Spike goes on about the BBC hating me. He hates the BBC to this very day, he says. I don't really believe he does.
It's a mother machine, the BBC, isn't it? It's full of milk, and everyone's got a teat.
There's no outfit in the world, even today, faced with a brand new product by a few crazy kids who not only would have kept it on, but kept pushing it and let it run, what, for 9, 10 series, was it?
There were people, I mean, there's a story which Peter Eaton said was true, was that at a planning meeting, one of the senior producers got up and said, "This go-on show, what's it all about? Who are these go-ons?" Now, that was typical of a certain echelon at the BBC where they weren't fully aware of what they were doing, what we were doing.
Scotland forever, sir!
Achai, and ahoy, Vaimon. It's a warm brach mulach lecht for the shidduch, the new one.
And bless old Ghana, too, boy.
Folks, I don't know how I get these parts. I just don't know.
What about me, boy? They got me down as a Chinese.
Man, you won't get away with it. Pop, bobble, 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 bobble with the pink champagne. Everything was safe and sane till the waiter poured the cork at the store and pop, bubble, 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 bubble with the pink champagne. He began to pour, I began to soar more and more and more. Oh, that pink, pink feeling as I went reeling toward remorse. Did I really fly through the ceiling? And did I ride home on my milkman's pink horse? Pop, bobble, 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 where's my aching brain? I am down to earth again. Elephants are at the sink, oh so pink. Pop, bobble, 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 take a broom myself to plane. Think I'm gonna die, why did I ever try pink champagne? Last orders, please. Bobble, 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 goes my aching brain. I am down to earth again. Elephants are at the sink, horse so pink. Pop, bobble, 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 take a broom, myself a plane. Think I'm gonna die, why did I ever try pink champagne?
That was Ray Ellington, the demon plasterer, but then you'll have guessed.
Nothing was ever taken seriously, not even the announcements. Tim Timothy, marvellous. He was the epitome of the BBC announcer. He looked it, he wore a monocle, and he stood there with this disdainful expression, which is perfect for us. And then he left. And then Wally Greenslade, who was an ex-naval man. He was a big, jolly man, and he was wonderful. We used to send him up Broughton, especially when we were doing the straight announcements, in Finch's bottom and things. I think Spike took a liking to him and to the character.
That was quite wonderful. They had a duologue between John Snag and Greenslade. I stood on the side of the wings, and I laughed very much at these two straight men carrying out this conversation.
Look here, Wallace. There's a rumour going around the corporation that you're thinking of leaving.
Well, John, I have been getting offers.
But, Wallace, you're not going to leave us. Remember, you're British.
Dear John, what can I say?
But what's the matter, Wallace? Aren't you happy with us? Isn't £3.10 a week enough?
Not quite, John.
But man alive, you were free copy of the Radio Times every week.
He was great. Oh, Wally he was good fun to be with. By the time the last Goon Show of all came round, Wally Greenslade had died, so Andrew Timothy came back for that.
When I announced the first Goon Show in a field off Tiverton, I was 30. I am now 93.
It felt a bit strange for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and after that was great, just as if nothing had happened.
Eccles?
Yeah?
It's me, Tin Button.
Oh, my friend.
Yes, I'm your friend. You remember me?
I remember you.
Yes. Why do you not open the door?
Okay, how do you open the door?
You turn the knob on your side.
I haven't got a knob on my side.
I think Eccles will be working on a sewage farm at the moment. Bloodnock is in pottery in a home for retired officers, working the bar.
Now, let me see, men. Yes, I'll pay pontoons only. Let's be having you now. Come along. Never mind, lad.
Not for me, sir. I'm skint.
No money?
No.
Grapple me, Gronkus. Get outside on guard. You military fool.
Moriarty has been dead 20 years, but nobody will tell him.
Oh, no. Oh.
Blue Bottle is now the Prime Minister of England.
I heard you call me my captain.
Minnie Bannister, I don't know.
Sorry, Henry.
Possibly working as a housekeeper for Princess Diana.
Someday I'll find you, moonlight behind you. Turn to the dream I am dreaming.
Henry Crun is trying to die.
Your smile, a little smile.
Grit Pipe Thin, or somebody like him, must be running the economy, doing the poll tax.
Of the 10,000 tenders, I have given the contract to F. Bog and Company.
Isn't that your wife's brother?
Which plunged me into mental home after mental home. And funny on the back of all that there should be laughter. Strange chemistry, isn't it?
It's strange chemistry, really, when you consider we're entirely different people, different kind of people. It's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Tom gets bashed and becomes a concertina and things, but in the next frame he's whole. That was the way that we did. We were Blue Bottles all being deaded, and blown up. So you couldn't do that on the screen. You see, it had to be in the mind, and it was, as we used to say, it's all in the mind, and that's what the Goon Show was, all in the mind.
And we used to pack so much energy into the show, and all our ideas and thoughts went into the show. Everything we had, we were just so keen to get it, to let people hear what was going on in our minds. This crazy, sort of strange fantasy that used to take place in our minds.
It's amazing because people have read into the Goon Show far more than there was. It was the product of a number of minds, of youngsters, all had a similar experience of the appalling things in war. But it was that hatred of pomposity. So when they started, what do we want you to do? We all went, oh, yes. You heretics.
It wasn't the age of the hype. We never had T-shirts or mugs or paraphernalia from the exploiting it. Totally unexploited, but it made it very pure in a way. It made it unsullied by commerciality. So it remains a very pure and dedicated show. And I think, without sounding too egotistical, it will just last as long as the tapes last.
That was At Last, the Go On Show, a BBC recorded programme with Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe, Spike Milligan and Michael Benty. And the voices of Eric Sykes, Graham Stark, George Chisholm, Dennis Main-Wilson, John Browell, Angela Morley and Charles Chilton. The music was by Angela Morley, Max Gildray and Ray Ellington. The scripts were by Spike Milligan, Eric Sykes, Larry Stevens, Michael Benty and Maurice Wiltshire. The programme was researched and compiled by Michael Poynton, Ted Kendall and the producer, Dirk Maggs.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the recording is all right, so good night to you all, and thank you very much for coming along. Good night. Good night.
Now get out!
Now you know what we have to do in the Goon Show.
Yes.